And welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford along with you here on your Thursday on the game. Appreciate our guy Mike Uva for hanging out with us in the last hour of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Exciting day. We are finally going to get to hear from Coach Paul Mainieri a little bit later on this afternoon at 4 o'clock. As Jay and Elijah will actually be doing the post-game show live from the Mainieri presser. So we'll get here Mainieri's presser live at 4 o'clock. Hopefully be able to grab him as well as Ray Tanner, maybe even, who knows, even Monty Lee as well this afternoon as the changing of the guard, I guess, will be official with Gamecock baseball later today.
Yep, the official changing of the guard today, the presser. And we want to thank Charles Bloom and Kent and all the guys over at South Carolina for hooking us up to get us in there for today.
Now, again, if Elijah tackles anybody, we're never going to be welcome back.
That's going to be a negative. And I told Elijah, I said, look, we're hoping Coach Tanner will come on voluntarily. We don't have to resort to, any type of
any type of threats.
Yeah, we don't want to go that road because we're kind, gentle people.
Right.
But seriously, we'll see what happens. Well, hopefully we'll have Coach Tanner on, the new assistant. Well, Monty's not a new assistant, but Monty, also Terry Rooney. Obviously, we'll have Paul Mainieri at some point with Jay and Elijah. So it's a good time today. It's going to start up at 3 o'clock over at the Cockaboose. And so that's going to be fun. And we'll carry the Paul Mainieri presser live here in Columbia on 107.5 The Game at 4 o'clock. Something interesting, Tyler, because we've all been saying, wow, this came out of nowhere.
Right.
And we're like, what? And then some of the folks we've talked to that cover this say, yeah, there was a whisper of a mystery candidate, and obviously we found out who that mystery candidate was.
Right.
Paul Mainieri. And you think, okay, when's the timeline? Because there were people who say, what was it, Ray Tanner strike out with everybody else, got desperate and reached out to Mainieri, say, hey, save my butt.
Right.
We heard that. But when Terry Rooney, there was an interview posted on Gamecock Central. Terry Rooney, who's a new pitching coach, a recruiting coordinator. Rooney was a recruiting coordinator at LSU. And so just to get timeline in your head, Rooney said a few days after LSU lost in the regional, Paul Mainieri reached out to him. Mm-hmm. So by that timeline, because they lost June 3rd to North Carolina and got knocked out.
Yep.
So if you go a few days, let's just say June 6th, Mainieri reached out. Hey, there's a possibility, maybe kind of, sort of something, maybe kind of could be happening in South Carolina. Just want to talk to you that if this thing became a possibility, would you be interested in, being my dude?
Right.
So let's say June 6th. So Coach Kingston was let go on June 3rd, that Monday.
Correct.
So let's fast forward again a few days to the 6th, roughly. Mainieri hits up Terry Rooney 6th, 7th of June. So I'm guessing Ray Tanner's first discussion with this had to be about June 5th or 6th with Paul Mainieri.
That sounds right.
Just doing timeline fun.
That's a lot of dates. I think that sounds right.
I'm just doing CSI.
Yeah.
CSI the game. So maybe that's when this whole conversation actually started. So that kind of goes away from that narrative of Ray Tanner was desperate. He'd struck out with everybody else, so he reached out to his old buddy who was retired and said, hey, dude, are you interested?
And again, those names that we went over last week, those were all viable candidates, and I'm sure they were in the middle of vetting all those guys as well. But again, you have that thing in your back pocket like, hey, why not? Let's see if Paul Mainieri wants to come back to coaching this time around. And if he does, that's going to be our guy. If not, hey, we got these other options we can go with.
Yeah, and so it feels like in some way, shape, or form that Mainieri was, however it broke out, was on the list that week.
Right.
It wasn't like, got to the weekend, oh, God, what are we going to do? Oh, that's right, my buddy Paul Mainieri.
This was not a panic button situation. Like, oh, my God, everybody else said no. We got to go, hey, see if Paul wants to coach. We'll give you a $1.3 million.
Right. Ray Tanner's going through his Rolodex, got the M's.
Yeah.
That's the guy. So just thinking about that timeline from Rooney and what he said and how it kind of goes against that, just that narrative that has been out there by people going, Yeah, Ray he had to figure out something, so he pulled something out of his lower extremities to hire somebody because the original people we heard, he couldn't get them. So no, Mainieri was in the mix as that mystery person we didn't talk about really that first week.
So does that mean Ray's going to start off his presser with "We got our guy"? One of our favorite cliches.
I love that one. What do you think if Ray went, okay, so here's the deal. I did strike out everybody else, and I called Paul. He's my buddy.
This is my 7th option.
Not for this one, but just once. Wouldn't it be great if, like, an NFL GM got up and said, look, I don't lie to you. I offered this job to 5 different people. They turned me down. This is the only goof that said yes. So we hired him.
That would have been more believable than the Giants saying, our guy, Joe Judge, a couple years ago.
I know.
I mean, the special teams coordinator from New England when special teams was kind of the worst part of their team that year.
Wouldn't you love just to hear? This would be great. Look, be honest. We wanted to hire somebody from the Patriots because they're really good, and we're not.
Bill said no.
Yeah.
So
Bill said
to the
no.
next option.
Josh said no. This guy said no. This guy. It was between Joe Judge and the equipment manager.
I was going to say the goof with the pencil behind his ear also turned us down.
So
that one hurt.
Yeah, so we just went with Jim. Jerry, what the hell's your name? Joe. We went with Joe.
Sure.
Judge. Just one time. Just once it would be classic.
Please.
Wouldn't it? It would be phenomenal.
Just be honest with us.
It would be so good. So good. By the way, we're going to get into this more in the next segment. It was really cool hearing Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina on the Garnet Trust Hour. Chris Clark did a heck of a job with that conversation with those two guys. It feels like Ethan Petrie's in and he'll be back from when you listen to Ethan Petrie.
From all indications.
I mean,
certainly.
the world can change all the time, but it feels like Ethan Petrie's coming back. Cole Messina, I mean, look, Cole Messina, rightfully so, you need to see what your draft options are. And you want to see your draft position. You want to see what kind of money is going to be offered up and all those things before you make any decisions.
Yeah, and I'll play the clip for you in just a minute here. But, he seemed very enticed by what Coach Mainieri told the team, which they're not all here right now. They kind of met on Zoom because they're all in various places right now. But he gave them at least a pretty strong message of what this team could be next year, which at least gives you a thought of, hey, maybe you come back.
And we'll hear that coming up in the next segment. The thing, look, with Cole Messina, it's easy. Look, he helped his stock in the postseason. Cole Messina helped himself out.
Right.
What it comes down to is just this: the tool set behind the plate and at the plate, how the major league scouts look at how he'll translate.
Right.
And it's stuff that we don't talk about. Like, ready? Okay. Your percentage of throwing out base stealers in college is this. Okay, that's great. What's your pop time? What's your pop time, release time? And arm strength we talk about all the time, but pop time, release time is a huge deal. Some guys might throw out runners in college, but some of the deeper dive scouting metrics would say, well, that might not translate to pro ball. Or, at the plate. And it's not just Messina. It's all these guys when they're scouting them, and today the deep dive analytical scouting as well.
Right.
Okay, your swing is great in college, but is your swing mechanics going to translate to pro ball when you're looking at more velocity, higher spin rates, and all that stuff?
And I'm very interested to see how pro scouts approach his size because he's a little bit on the shorter side, which I think is the one thing that I don't say people knock him for, but saying, for a catcher, which again, the catching aspect of that, how much does that come into play, I don't know necessarily. If you want a long, lengthy catcher, somebody that's a little bit more, short and stocky like he is. But obviously he has the power at the plate. But, yeah, maybe there's some of those more nuanced mechanics of swings and stuff like that maybe a little bit critical of. But, based on the latest projections, I look at that. He's looking at about the 4th round.
Yeah, which I think is fair. I mean, I think 4th round, 3rd round, somewhere the 4th round feels like the sweet spot for him.
Right.
Could somebody take him in the 3rd somewhere? Sure, but I feel like 4th round. Look, if you get drafted in the 4th round, and you get the slot bonus you should get for that pop, and you feel like, you know what, it's pretty good money to start my pro career, then go do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Does he think he can come back and with another year under a new coaching staff and NIL?
Also, his brother
is
coming in now. He's also has the potential to go pro as well. So
sure.
We could have 2 Messinas, we could have no Messinas, we could have 1 Messina. I don't know, but there's a lot of factors at play here.
So I mean, again, he's going to be separate with a lot of the stuff they got to figure out with Cole Messina, but it sounds like Petrie's excited to get rolling under this new regime.
For sure.
So
And you also have to, and we'll get their thoughts on this as well, but the Monty Lee aspect of it too is also really important.
Well, that's the thing about this that you like. Look, we can all sit here all day and, bare knuckle fight like Fight Club over Monty Lee's, should he have been hired or not. That ship sailed, doesn't matter anymore. What matters is, though, Monty Lee's a good baseball guy. He's a good assistant, good lieutenant, good recruiter, knows the state, knows the program.
Right.
A lot of that stuff you can value as the highest paid assistant in college baseball. And keeping Monty Lee in that role that he is in is a huge positive for this program.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those players who really wanted Monty, they still got him on the staff. So you bring in a guy with a large resume of success and winning, and you keep the guy around that has really been a relationship builder with the players.
Right.
Again, double win. It just is. So we'll talk more about that as well. And another thing today is we talk about Paul Mainieri a ton at LSU. We know he did coach before LSU.
He did.
Do you know he has a stadium named after him?
I did not know that.
Well, you'll find that out today.
Okay. Very cool.
So we'll get into that. We'll come back, though, and you got a couple cuts from Messina and Petrie, right?
I do.
We're going to get some Cole Messina, Ethan Petrie, in case you missed it on the Garner Trust Hour with Chris Clark between 10 and 11 a.m. We're going to re-rack a couple of the thoughts of Petrie and Messina. That's coming up next. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling until 3. And do not forget, from 3 to 6, a special post-game show live from the Cockaboose by Williams-Brice. Paul Mainieri press conference, 4 o'clock. We'll carry it here live in Columbia at 107.5. Also, Jay and Elijah will be getting Mainieri. Also, we hope we can pull Coach Tanner on the air with us, maybe get some of the assistants on the new staff. Very special post-game show today live at the presser right here on the Game in Columbia. We appreciate you listening if you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach as well on the Game Network. Halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler head till 3 on the game. Paul Mainieri, presser, 4 o'clock today. You can hear it right here on the game in Columbia at 107.5. And Jay and Elijah, a special postgame show from 3 to 6 from the presser at the Cockaboose there by Williams-Brice. All right, so Ethan Petrie, Cole Messina on the Garnet Trust Hour. Chris Clark, real good conversation with those two guys. Tyler, let's start off with Ethan Petrie, his thoughts on the new baseball coach at South Carolina.
I just think, trust is everything. And as we're going to trust him and he's going to trust us. And that's all that really matters when it comes to winning baseball games and making it to where we want to be. And trust is a really good factor when it comes to a locker room all the way out on the field. So start in the locker room, and then now we have, Coach Mainieri. We're going to trust him. He's going to trust us. And then all that's going to lead out on the field. And, we just play our game and trust each other.
Yeah, look, that could have been a fun drinking game every time you heard the word trust.
He has a whole nother thing about trusting him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that sometimes people like, another trust cliche, or that's just a buzzword, but it's true if you think about it. The person you're working with, or who is, the coach, the supervisor, the boss, whoever, it's a better culture when you have trust in them they're doing what's best for the team, the group, the collective. Mm-hmm. Also, they're trying to do what's best for you as well. And the best way to build the trust is just to be straight up. That starts everywhere.
Sure.
Just be straight up. Just like, we're, and I know there's going to be another cut here with Mainieri. Basically, we're here to win. And you know that right away. Here's a guy that wants to win. He's here to win. And you start there. And then you build the trust. And the trust is, because they're going to give you trust to start with, right?
Right.
You start by getting the ultimate in trust. You could only lose trust if you're Paul Mainieri. And from everything that I've heard and I've read and I've seen about Mainieri, that's not going to be an issue. He's a guy, players love him. He's had great relationships with his players. But the trust thing is a thing. Because, look, I've worked in shops in this business where I couldn't trust the guy who I should be able to trust. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's never been good. It always starts it down a bad road because the decisions are made. You question the decisions because you don't trust the person.
Sure.
So the trust thing, I know we hear the word and we go, oh, God. Yeah. And that's more nuclear stuff. Okay. No, it is a thing.
Look, nobody likes a snake.
No. Especially who might be in charge of your team.
And look, I've never been a Division I athlete, but you're obviously concerned about the team, but you're also concerned about your individual career. And if I'm playing for this guy, what does that mean for my career? If I'm trying to get to the major leagues, is this a guy that's going to help me get there, or is he going to hurt my chances to get at that next level? Plus, is this a guy that's going to be able to take us to where we want to go as a team, to Omaha, to a national championship, whatever it may be? Can he get us there? Do I trust him to do that?
Right. So let's take an example of like a player, because if a decision is made about you as a player when you go to talk about the player, if a decision you don't agree with, you don't think is right or fair or whatever, if it's a person you trust that's coming from, here's why we're doing it, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but you walk out of the office going like this. I get it, but I don't like it. Like Will Tippett. Let's take Will Tippett real quick, Tyler. Tippett finally started to hit. Remember, he abandoned the switch hitting, started to hit, and then got hurt.
Right.
Then this team, they made some adjustments and had this offensive lineup that was defensively, but offensively, it was scoring a lot of runs.
Yep.
Tippett comes back. You don't want to stop your mojo. So Tippett doesn't go right back in the lineup. Right. But if you be Will Tippett and you're told, hey, man, you're not going to be in the lineup, and here's why. If you trust the person telling you that, you walk out of the room going, well, it sucks. I don't agree. I was hitting, but I get it. We don't want to screw up the juju.
Yeah.
But if you don't trust the guy, what are you thinking?
It's like, well, what's the deal here? And that's the important distinction to note, because it's not a coach that's going to bow to your every demand, saying, well, Coach, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, just somebody that's going to be honest with you.
Right.
If you're not playing well, hey, here, you're not playing well. We're going to put you on the bench for now. This guy's going to start in your place, whatever it may be. You may not want to hear that, but it's the honest truth.
And that's where you have to go. That's where you build your trust.
Right.
You just got to be straight up. And sometimes being straight up sucks, but you got to be. And so this thing starts with the ultimate trust between coach and player and players.
And again, I've just, in scouring the internet, I've not come across any horrid stories of Mainieri when he was at LSU or Notre Dame or anything like that, of stabbing anybody in the back or players hating him or anything along those lines. So it seems to be a pretty up and up dude.
Mm-hmm. And we've heard a lot of his old stuff here lately. And first of all, I believe our press conferences here are going to be interesting.
So Mike and I were trying to figure out where to set the line on his opening, like, monologue, spiel, whatever you want to call it, intro. I'm thinking like 6 to 7, maybe. And that's like getting into Pete Limbo territory.
Yeah, because
by the way,
well, you went through the Mainieri cuts when you were pulling audio the other day.
I had to.
What did you tell me?
I had to shorten some of them because he went on for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, I gotta get the main point out of this thing. But yes, he is. He's not afraid to talk. I'll say that much.
And I was told by a couple of people that the media here will love him. He's very media friendly. You know, he expounds on points. He talks. It's compelling. So and I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go. I think 6-7's fair.
And that is very inviting for a fan base because, and again, I'm not trying to be the person that piles on Coach Kingston here, but that was something that I don't know if it rubbed people the wrong way, but I wish he would have expanded on things a little bit more. Coach, this problem you're having with your team, what's going on? How are you going to fix it? Oh, yeah, we're gonna practice. We're gonna get back to fundamentals. Blah blah blah. Like, he never really gave you the deep dive into, okay, what's the process of fixing that? Whereas where I feel like, you know, like a Coach Beamer, Coach Paris, you know, they'll really give you the nuts and bolts of what's going on and how they're going to go through fixing it. So having a baseball coach that seemingly should do the same thing will be a welcomed addition.
Well, Mark, and the sad thing with Mark is getting a chance to talk to Mark away from microphones. Mark's got a really good personality. Mark, good sense of humor. I mean, Mark.
Sure.
But I think the way Coach Kingston handled it, and a lot of coaches will handle it this way, is basically between 30 seconds and a minute, right?
Right.
I'm going to answer your question. Boom, there you go. Next question. And it's a less is more, because in this world today, sometimes when you go more, what happens to you? You say something that you got to deal with. Right. You got to deal with drama. So a lot of coaches are that less is more, keep that sound bite between 30 seconds and a minute, and move on to the next question. But some guys like Mainieri's much more comfortable giving longer answers and putting context behind his answers.
Right.
So I've heard this is a guy that the media will really like here. All right, let's get Cole Messina's thoughts on the new baseball coach at South Carolina there, Tyler.
I agree with what Ethan said. You know, this new guy is coming, you know, a little bit more disciplined than maybe we've seen in the past. But I think from all I've heard from former players of him is he's going to push you to be your best. And no matter your feelings think, no matter what your mind thinks, he's going to get the best out of you. And, you know, he's going to make you a better person while doing that. So I think really, really, really good for this place.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the track record. Track record tells you this guy wins a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He just does. And look, we talked about this, what was it, Tuesday, because everything popped on Monday. I get the concerns. Out of the 3 major ones, for me, there's just one, and that's the health issue. You wouldn't come back if you weren't sure that you were fine, it was past you, but you just hope it doesn't rear its ugly head again. That's all.
Right.
The other stuff, the age, the not being in the game for 3 years, the age thing I don't think's a thing, and he's going to have a bunch of people around him who have been in this game the last 3 years. So
yeah, I don't think that's
I don't think those two things are a thing. My only thing is that neck issue going to pop up again to the point of where it really becomes once again a debilitating problem.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you look at this and you would think that if he decided to come back, then he probably feels like he's in a pretty good state where that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, and look, he almost took the Miami job last year. So obviously he's been feeling good for a bit.
And plays a lot of golf, apparently.
There you go. It just, look, I know a ton of people who play and they love it. And it is fun to go outside and run around a golf course, but I'm not a golfer. Not a golfer.
I got pretty good at Wii golf.
My daughter, Wii golf, Wii bowling, Wii tennis. She could have been a professional at any of the three when she was like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
She was crushing it at Wii golf.
Oh, yeah.
Killing it. Her best was Wii bowling. She almost like bowled perfect games in Wii bowling.
It's a lot of fun.
It was fun. I'd play those games with her. That was actually fun because you're actually moving and doing things.
See, that's one of those kind of things, like, I wish I still knew where my Wii was, because I'd love to play that now.
Wii was cool, man.
I was like,
I'm not going to lie to you.
I don't know what happened to it. It's somewhere.
Yeah, she had it, and it's probably where yours is.
Maybe.
Hers and yours is probably together.
Somewhere in a box in the attic.
Yep, that's it. So we will have that presser again 4 o'clock today. Post-game show 3 to 6 at the presser at the Cockaboost there by Williams-Brice with Jay and Elijah here on the game. We'll pop back in here. Wow. I'm salivating about this ACC SEC challenge. Woohoo! Gamecocks. Wow. This one. I got to stop.
Hey, you booking your flight?
Yeah, huh? We'll get to that next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game. Obviously, what we're talking about here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach is Paul Mainieri, the 4 p.m. presser, officially introducing the South Carolina baseball coach. Also, his assistants, Rooney and Monty Lee, will be there as well. Athletic Director Ray Tanner. Hopefully, we're going to get all those folks on between 3 and 6 on the postgame show. We'll be at the Cockabos at Williams-Brice for the press conference and the postgame show with Jay and Elijah. Also, South Carolina basketball, the ACC-SEC Challenge. I mean, how pumped up? How can you not get pumped up over rolling to Boston College?
Look, people loved the SEC Big 12 Challenge, and when it went away, it felt like the ACC Challenge was just kind of like, something to fill the void. And sure, the prospects of playing a Duke or a North Carolina or Virginia or something like that, that's very inviting. But then you do have the teams on the other end of the spectrum that you might end up drawing that, unfortunately, Carolina did.
Yeah, BC. Well, again, 15 years ago, BC actually made the NCAA tournament. But it's been a long time. They haven't made the NCAA tournament since Al Skinner was the head coach.
Yep, 2009. They have not finished in the top 10 in the ACC in 12 years.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Grant's a guy, College of Charleston. You were telling me about his deeper roots in the state.
He's got Carolina ties, was at Clemson, was at Winthrop as an assistant. Yeah. So there's that angle to it. I'm not sure how much people care about that.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
Something.
2.
That's generous.
I know. I'm in a generous mood. So, yeah, I mean, it's a matchup, but you got to go there and win. Simple. You go there. And, look, Boston College won 20 games. They were 20-14 last year or something like that.
Right.
So maybe Coach Grant's got him back possibly in the right direction, but you feel like right now that's a game that in some way, shape, or form you pull a W.
So this past year they won 20 games, made it actually pretty deep in the NIT, which is the best season they've had really since that last tournament team. Mm-hmm. So they're trending in the right direction.
It's interesting. In their history, they made it to an Elite Eight. They made it to some Sweet 16s.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a basketball powerhouse. They never have been. For a while, I think I was telling you this morning that they were a stepping stone gig for a little bit.
Yep.
Dr. Tom Davis made a decent amount of NCAA tournaments, got to the Sweet 16, and then jumped to the Iowa job. Gary Williams was at BC and then jumped to Ohio State before he came back home to Maryland.
Right.
So for a bit there, it was kind of like that stepping stone job. Good job, they'll take you to better jobs. But after that, besides Al Skinner's tenure, and Skinner's tenure was pretty successful, since Skinner left, it's been nothing.
Right.
Nada. So now it's not the worst matchup, though, in the ACC-SEC Challenge. Let me give you the worst matchup?
I got to pull mine back up here. There's some bad ones. What do you define as the worst matchup?
Missouri hosting Cal.
Just thinking about Cal in the ACC is odd enough.
Missouri last year, how'd they do in the SEC?
They didn't.
Yes. Cal, how have they been as a basketball program?
They haven't.
To me, that's the worst matchup. That's the biggest dog with fleas in this thing. I was looking at others. I mean, Virginia Tech made the NCAAs a couple years ago. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. That one's not very enticing either. I mean, Pitt was an NCAA tournament team. Mississippi State, NCAA tournament team. That doesn't look like it's got a whole lot of wow to it, but they are two good teams.
That's a solid B matchup.
Absolutely. I really think Kalamazoo is the worst one.
Yeah, it's hard to beat.
So bad.
Now, on the flip side of things, I mean, Texas, NC State, Auburn, Duke, Alabama, North Carolina, you got some
good ones.
Virginia, Florida, you got some pretty intriguing matchups here.
The other one's interesting. Coach Cal in Arkansas going to Coral Gables to take on Larinaga and the crew at Miami.
That's right.
That's another good one to me. I like that one. Clemson made the NCAAs, got deep in the tournament.
They did.
And they're getting Mark Pope, the new coach at Kentucky. That game, by the way, in the upstate.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting. So the other one that could be, Notre Dame is still rebuilding in year 2 without, Coach Bray. Look, Mike White, Georgia's becoming a solid program under White. He's a good coach.
I've been pretty impressed with what he's done so far. Still room to continue to grow, but they darn near made the NIT finals.
Yeah, the biggest.
Which I know that's not worth anything anymore, but
you said that. I gotta give you credit. You said that with real conviction.
Listen, let me tell you this: the people in Athens have not gotten to be excited about anything basketball related in so long. They were very much buying into the NIT.
So good. You're like, hey, Tara, NIT semis. It was pretty good. Look, the biggest thing, Mike White's biggest sin at Florida is he followed the guy.
Yeah.
Mike White's a good basketball coach. Florida did get to an Elite Eight, I believe, under Mike White. But White, the guy before you won back-to-back national championships. You didn't get to the Final Four. You're not going to last long once the expectation bar has been set that high.
Yep.
Just getting to the tournament, no one cares. Just getting to the Sweet 16, no one cares. Your Elite Eight was fun, but you got to get to the Final Four at some point. And Mike White, that was Mike White's biggest sin. He's a good basketball coach, though. And I think Georgia did. Oh, look, Georgia thought they had a good basketball coach before him in Crean. Multiple Sweet 16s in Indiana, Final Four at Marquette. You're bringing a guy in going, okay. And this goes to that point we were talking about, you never know when you hire a guy.
Right.
Even in your worst scenario, you didn't think Georgia basketball would be that much of a disaster with Tom Crean.
No, and especially when you bring in the eventual number 1 overall pick in the draft, Anthony Edwards. There was a lot of buzz when Crean got in. And the funny thing about it, and this was before the portal had become what the portal is now, it was the constant, well, wait till he gets his guys in here. Wait till he gets the roster full of his team. And then he got a roster full of his team. And it was like, well, they're not really that great.
Oh, it's just, I never saw that coming. It would get that bad.
Right.
Another that's interesting, just from the sort of like train wreck on the side of the road. Ole Miss, good program. Chris Beard, obviously, high-level coach, right?
Right.
It's only going to be a matter of time until Ole Miss becomes a perennial NCAA tournament team, until Beard leaves for a better gig and more money, right?
Right.
Louisville is a waste station. What Kenny Payne did to that basketball program is a felony. This used to be one of the best programs in America under Crum, Pitino, and now look at this mess. Look at this mess.
Definitely a far cry from where it once was.
So we'll see with Pat Kelsey in year 1 against Chris Beard and an up-and-coming Ole Miss program.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. And you circle back. Alabama, North Carolina is going to be fun.
It's almost kind of like, what sport are we playing? Oh, it's basketball.
That's going to be a good time. And also, it's going to be compelling to watch Bruce Pearl take Auburn into Cameron.
That's going to be fun.
That's also going to be fun. That's going to be a really good one, too. And you brought up Texas, NC State. That should be interesting. And I guess real quick, not that we spend a lot of time on ACC hoops, but Tony Bennett, man, you got to get back together at Virginia.
Yeah.
You won a national championship. That buys you eons of love, right?
Sure.
You got to get back to it, Tony. That thing's fallen a little bit.
Going back to Texas and NC State, I'm trying to think what the NC State fans could do to visibly upset Rodney Terry to the point of almost tears.
The old days, they'd think of something.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah. It's a kinder, gentler time.
The horns down thing is so dumb.
It is one of the dumbest things to get upset about. How about the Big 12? You can't do it. Why? Because our lips are permanently on Texas's backside. You can't do it. The SEC's like, who cares?
I loved when somebody posed that question to Greg Sankey. He was like, "No,
we don't.
We're not gonna.
We don't care.
Not gonna cater to that."
He's like, you know who? Ready? Greg Sankey should have pulled this. You know who we are?
Yeah.
We're letting them in our
I
league.
say Texas is lucky to be here.
Yeah, we're letting them in our league. Matter of fact, would it have been funny if Sankey did the horns down right there at the presser? How good would that have been?
That would be great.
Oh,
See,
you mean this?
The Big 12 became over time the girlfriend that it really wasn't working, but she was trying to change everything about herself to make it work, and then Texas ended up leaving anyway.
They'll leave anyway. Yeah, well, it's like anything.
I can change. I can get. They can get if they do the horns down, they're in trouble. Big
That's right.
trouble.
Well, we'll
Big
put
trouble.
a rule in.
Well, yeah.
That's offensive.
Yeah.
I can see why it bothers you so much.
It'll be a 15-yard penalty, even if the fans in the stands are doing it.
You want me to learn how to cook? I'll learn how to cook.
Yeah.
I swear I will.
Exactly.
I'll learn how to cook. Yeah. Oh,
And
you like these shoes? I'll wear them every day.
After a while,
swear to God.
Puts the hand on the shoulder. I appreciate everything you've done, but
it's just not working.
I'm gonna go over here.
Ready? It's a me thing. It's not you.
Yeah, that's right. I
It's
gotta work.
me.
I gotta work on myself.
Yeah, it's
We
me.
need to see other conferences.
Yeah. Firehouse Subtext the hour. Coming up at 803-404-6100. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. All right, time to hit the old Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler?
Joey weighs in and says, my 9-year-old daughter beat me in Wii bowling 238 to 195. Brutal.
Nice. I'm going to tell you, my daughter, she had a hook on that thing, too.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like the way you flick your wrist.
you flick
with
that
it.
wrist.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, honestly, it was like she was throwing a Raldis Chapman velocity down that lane. And I'm like, well, she can do this. I can do that fast.
Totally.
Guess what?
And you probably threw the remote through the TV because you didn't have the safety strap on.
Exactly. I'm telling you, man, because it was like I was stunned. I'm like, oh my God, is there a junior Wii bowling league somewhere?
Well, it's pretty amazing that those little characters can do that without any actual arms.
Yeah, that's even more impressive. I'm getting beat by an armless character at Wii bowling.
Exactly.
And a 6-year-old. I mean, and tennis, she would kill at tennis too. She would hit forehands that would fly by you. And there's a little girl, 6-year-old girl. Woof, woof, woof. I was like, wow.
You're just along for the ride.
It was great. Every now that we play doubles, and I'd always pick her.
Yeah.
I just sit there and watch her just tear it up. It was that was Joey. Was that Joey on the text?
That is Joey.
Joey, my friend, just keep practicing. Keep working, Joey.
And when you finally win, rub it in her face.
Dance like nobody's business.
Exactly.
Let her know what's up.
That's
now,
right.
Joey didn't say if he grounded her after she whooped him at Wii Bowling.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Did you ground her? Now, I'll say this. My daughter, I did not ground. I understood the whooping I was taking because she wasn't a bad sport about it, and she didn't rub it in your face.
Doesn't give you the L on the forehead.
My oldest son, on the other hand, when he was young, got into the college football game.
Yes.
And he was Florida, the Fun and Gun Florida Gators.
What year was this?
This was like late 90s.
Okay.
Early new millennium.
Okay.
He was the Fun and Gun Gators.
Yeah.
And they scored a lot of points. And he was really good at it. And occasionally I would play because, again, I'm not a gamer.
Sure.
But I'd sit down and play. And he'd run the score up on me. He's throwing bombs up like 40-3.
Calling timeouts up 30 with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, he's keeping the starters in. So we had to have punishment to learn sportsmanship. That, and I didn't like getting the crap beat out of me.
Why are you grounded? Beat Dad 70-7.
I can't come out and play. Why? Whoop Dad by 90. College football game.
Did you ever hear that story about when Cardell Jones played the kid in the hospital?
Yes.
And he's like, "Hey, the kid was bragging about how good he was," and he said, and he's like, I kind of looked over at his parents, like, "You want me to let him win?" They're like, "No, he's good, and I'm like,
okay,
all right, let's see how good he is."
So funny, he killed him, crushed him.
It was like 95-13.
Hey, did you see the highlight, the celebrity softball game over the weekend? Where the grandma hit the ball and they were letting her get down to first base to get on first base. You've always seen those beautiful moments of,
Sure.
oh, you're going to let the kid or the elderly person run the bases and all this. So, and she's getting help by somebody. It was like a celebrity softball game or just like a charity softball game or something. And the NFL players were involved. And I forget the NFL player, but gets the ball at first base, and here comes Granny, and she's getting there, and it's taking a little bit of time for her to get there. She gets one step away from the bag. NFL player tags the bag and tags her out.
I'm trying to see if I can find the clip.
You got to find it. I think it was John Kelly.
Oh, okay, I found it. Yeah.
And it looks like a heartwarming moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. Everybody's just kind of standing around.
Everybody's happy.
She's getting it down that line.
Getting down the line. He's got the ball in the glove at first base.
Yep.
She gets one step away from the base. Watch.
All right, here it comes.
And he steps on the bag.
Oh, man.
That was cold. Was that not cold? And then he celebrates with a chest bump with the guy playing second base.
Oh, that's good.
If you haven't seen it, you can find it easy. Just Google it. It was like, wow.
Well, he didn't apply the tag to her.
No, he tagged the base.
So he tagged the base.
Because she's going to first base.
That's right.
Now, if he would have tagged her,
hey,
that would have been worse.
You're talking about professional athletes here. There's that competitive itch.
He took too long to get to first.
Grandma's not getting on base today.
Nope. I think my favorite, the chest bump celebration afterwards, might have been my favorite part of it.
Maybe you don't gloat about that one, but.
Oh, God. By the way, we didn't get to this yet. Did you see there's new Joey Chestnut news?
I did. I'm very excited.
Because the guy that was dominant in this hot dog eating mess that I don't watch
Kobayashi.
was Kobayashi.
Yeah.
And he was the GOAT
He was the guy.
until Joey Chestnut showed up.
Joey Chestnut came along, and he's been the GOAT for the past 20 years.
And Kobayashi kind of went off. Something happened.
Well,
I don't know.
he got in trouble. He got banned from Major League Eating at one point as well.
Yeah.
And again, Joey Chestnut's dominated every year since 2015 when Matt Stoney beat him. But yeah, it sounds like they're going to go head-to-head on Labor Day.
It's going to be Kobayashi versus Chestnut
That's right.
in an eat-off.
Yes.
Is that what you would call it? An eat-off?
Sure.
A dog-off?
Which, here's the thing. I think there's so much blowback from Chestnut not being in the Nathan's contest on the 4th of July. They're going to have to put him back in.
I mean, I have a tough time talking about this without laughing. Okay, here's the thing. Did people watch this thing before Chestnut?
Oh, I did.
Did people watch this thing before Kobayashi?
I wasn't around then.
I think the Nathan's hot dog eating contest is bigger than one person.
That's true. But he does bring a lot of eyes.
Does he have a large fan following?
He's an American hero.
I don't know what's better. The sincerity of you saying that the way you did, or that you gave Georgia in the NIT. I don't know which one of those
I
is
can
better.
hear the bald eagle screeching in the distance when you say Joey Chestnut's name.
American hero, Joey Chestnut. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Again, today, 4 o'clock, Paul Mainieri, his introductory press conference will be at the Cockaboose, right there at Williams-Brice. You'll hear it here on the game in Columbia at 107.5. Also, the post-game show with Jay and Elijah live at the Cockaboose from 3 to 6. We'll be talking with the new head baseball coach, Paul Mainieri, at some point during that time frame. Hopefully, we'll get new assistant Terry Rooney will be there at the presser, Monty Lee, also athletic director Ray Tanner. We're hoping we can get them all on, or as many as we can. So that's between 3 and 6 today here on the game in Columbia. Tomorrow, we moved our Angry Fish live broadcast in Lexington. We moved it still 3 to 6, but it will be tomorrow because of the special circumstance of the press conference today. And again, we want to thank, Kent, Charles Bloom, and all the guys over at South Carolina for inviting us over for today's festivities. So we appreciate that. So that is today, 3 to 6. Angry Fish will be tomorrow from 3 to 6. All right, we haven't really talked a ton about the South Carolina recruiting, football-wise, and what's going on. There have been welcome homes out there, and things are happening. One that was interesting, again, it's one of those that, right now might be okay, because it's a guy with a high ceiling who is a little bit maybe more raw than others. And I know I'll mess up his name. I know I will, because I've tried it. I've watched it on the internet. I've heard other people try to say it. I know I'll mess it up. There's no doubt about it. And you know what I love is when these things just go off on the internet. So, and I'm going to try it. I know I'm going to screw it up. Kabisaki Ray. And I know I messed it up. But the recruitment's, it's interesting. He's a guy had injuries cut short his junior season, but still had offers from Southern Cal, Louisville, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Indiana, Georgia Tech, and others. So folks have been on it. 6'3", 220. So he could put on a little bit of LBs before it's over with. But athletic guy. Took an official visit to Indiana, then South Carolina. Was going to take a visit to Mississippi State, but committed to the Gamecocks on Monday after doing his weekend official visit. 3-star. Again, he's listed at 210. From what I'm reading, more like 220. Again, a player who right now isn't what you call rated highly, number 65 rated edge player in the country right now in his recruiting class. And is only like 742nd overall, reading the post from Gamecock Central. So, again, raw guy, athletic, has put up some numbers, but has a high ceiling. And if developed correctly, might get yourself a player out of the deal. Gamecocks are also still a favorite. Now, Anthony Addison also, Sumter Edge had committed as well. Gamecocks also, according to Gamecock Central, the favorite for Hoover, Alabama, 4-star edge Jared Smith. And, Carolina is also trying to work their magic on 5-star Southern Cal commit Isaiah Gibson. A lot of blue bloods are into this one. And, again, South Carolina's pulled guys before that people didn't think they would pull. Gibson has, done his official visit to South Carolina. He's got other official visits going on. Yes, he's committed to Southern Cal, but obviously he's still shopping. So we'll see where that goes. But the Gamecocks trying to beef up the amount of quality, upside, high ceiling, and potential on the edge. Because, look, what I was to tell you. In the SEC, you got to be able to put heat on quarterbacks. Just like the NFL. The quarterback has become, the head of the snake, so to speak. The days that, you can win with your quarterback just being a game manager, eventually they got to make plays. We talked about J.J. McCarthy last year for the Michigan Wolverines. You know, usually Michigan was up by 100. McCarthy just turned and handed the ball off. We've, discussed the Penn State game ad nauseum when McCarthy in the second half just turned and handed off. But for Michigan to win a national championship, J.J. McCarthy, in the few close games the Wolverines played, McCarthy had to make plays. And he did. McCarthy doesn't lead that drive down the field against Alabama. It's Alabama playing for the national championship, not Michigan. So you have to make plays eventually as a quarterback. You just do. Game manager day is over. So to stop that quarterback from making plays, it's tough for them to make plays when they're laying on the ground in pain. You got to get edge rushers who can win. Guys who win the one-on-one battles, guys you don't have to scheme to get pass rush, but guys who can just pop off the end, use their skills, use their athleticism, and knock the snot out of people. That's what you need. And the Gamecocks are trying to accumulate as much edge talent as possible with the hope that a couple will pop and develop, and then you can have some game wreckers coming off the edge. That's where it's going with South Carolina football recruiting coming off the edge. Also, I was taking a look at this today. The Athletic did a really nice breakdown regarding the SEC schedule week by week and the games to watch and the games that are interesting. And some of these are really good. And we'll just do we'll piece through this in the next so many days. We'll start with the first 4 weeks of the season and some of the interesting games to keep your eyeball on. There's 2 in week one, well, really 3 in week one. The Georgia-Clemson game, noon ABC. It feels like that one could, I don't know how close that'll be. Look, can Clemson hang around? All depends on their offense, right? Clemson's just got to get better on offense. Garrett Riley, as the offensive coordinator, has got to be able to put in more of his stuff. Okay, Klubnik, you got to get better, and you got to let Klubnik throw the ball down the field. Your offense wasn't explosive last year. Klubnik was tied for the least amount of attempts down the field, 20-plus yards in college football. I mean, you got to get more explosive. If you're not more explosive on offense, Georgia is going to boat race you. Because the one thing to Kirby Smart's credit, when he brought in Todd Monken, it was basically, if I actually let my offense play offense to go with my defense, I'm going to beat the hell out of everybody.
Well, now that to me was Kirby's way of adapting to the game.
Yeah.
Because, of course, he's a defensive guy, so his mind is on that side of the football more than anything. And for several years, their defense was so good, their offense didn't have to be amazingly explosive to keep up. But after that, 2019 season, when James Coley was the offensive coordinator, it was pretty meh. And it's like, okay, something needs to change. And we saw the same thing happen with Nick Saban, where he had to adapt to how the game was changing. And it seems like Dabo Swinney's kind of at the crossroads. Like, you can keep doing the same thing you've been doing, but if you want to get into the playoff and compete for national championships like you did for roughly a decade, you got to change something up. You got to be more explosive on offense.
Because it feels like, you had 2 first-round pick generational talents at quarterback in Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence.
Yes, that helped a lot.
So that really elevated your offense. So it wasn't so much that great offensive system you were running. You had NFL quarterbacks, NFL wide receivers, and they were just better than the other guy.
The receiver thing's a big part of it. You routinely had at least one NFL caliber receiver on your team every single year.
Now you don't.
Now you couldn't pick them out of a lineup.
No, they can't even pick them
by
out.
The way, your best guy just transferred to Notre Dame, by the way, Bo Collins.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, since you don't have NFL type talent right now, you got to open up your offense and look. Enough of we're running the Clemson offense. No, let Garrett Riley. If Garrett Riley's any good, I don't know if Garrett Riley's any good because he was running the TCU offense.
Sure,
he wasn't running Garrett Riley's offense. So let's see if Garrett Riley can actually coordinate an offense.
Right.
If you're Dabo, take the chains off that thing. Truly make it Garrett Riley's offense 100%. Hey, Garrett, we're paying you a lot of money. Go build an offense. And let's see how explosive you can make it. If Clemson doesn't step that offense up by 12:45, that game's over.
Here's the thing. If he wants to step that offense up, he's probably going to need to get some guys out of the portal.
Yeah, you don't need him. Nobody's better than the guys he's got.
Sure.
That 8-win juggernaut. All right, so Georgia-Clemson, Well, because Clemson has a really good defense.
They do. They always have a really good defense, but
that's not the problem.
That's the thing. Like Georgia's offense is very high powered, very talented, where it could diminish what you have on defense to where you look up, like you said, at the end of the first quarter, it's 28-3.
Yeah, if you're Clemson, and you think you're going to get in some kind of a slobber knocker rock fight, probably not.
No.
So you got to score some points. Also, in that first week, Miami travels to the Swamp to take on the Florida Gators. Look, we all sit back and say Mario Cristobal is going to get Miami going. Mario Cristobal is going to get Miami going. This is year 3, right?
It is.
Time to get Miami going.
Well, now, they brought in a pretty compelling quarterback to help do that.
Brought in a quarterback with a lot of skills. Hopefully you put them in an offense that matches their skills, unlike what you did to Tyler Van Dyke. Hopefully you put this quarterback, Cam Ward, in the right position to be successful. And if you do that, maybe you will finally start to turn this thing around. And if you do that and you are as good as you are supposed to be, it should be a long day at home for the Gators.
It should be.
But we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know.
Yeah, I would say both these teams kind of come in with a lot of question marks about what the future of both their programs are going to be. And here's the thing, Mario Cristobal, I don't think we got enough time of him in Oregon to get a true sense of how he was going to be out there before transfer or going over to Miami. But yeah, I feel like this is definitely a statement type of year that you can make with, again, a very special quarterback talent to do it.
Yeah, and you're year 3 with your guys, the guys you've recruited from your first year, and you're a great recruiter, and Cristobal is excellent recruiter. So let's see now if Cristobal and the coaching staff can develop that talent, and all of a sudden Miami pops. The other game in week 1, this is interesting. LSU lost a lot of offensive talent.
Yep.
Fired all the defensive coaches. Brian Kelly wants his defense better. How is his offense? Typically the LSU offense is next man up, right?
Usually.
We'll see. Southern Cal comes in. They lost their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, first pick overall in the draft.
Yep.
They've lost offensive talent. Lincoln Riley's a quarterback whisperer and an offensive genius. They're trying to fix their defense. This game is going to be just interesting from the standpoint of what both these teams are going to be.
Yeah, and I go back, Garrett Nussmeier, for what little bit he showed when he had to come in for Jaden Daniels when he got injured a couple seasons ago. A lot of reason to be excited there. Again, you did lose a lot of playmakers like, Neighbors and Thomas Jr. on the outside. So it's going to be interesting to see what this offense can be. It's going to be a step backwards. Like, I think we can say that safely. You had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, 2 high-caliber wide receivers on the outside. First-round picks. Like, you're not going to be that same level of offense, but you can still be good.
But what you're hoping is your defense is not going to be atrocious.
And here's the thing, too. Speaking of defense, I don't think week 1's going to tell us anything about LSU because Southern Cal, I know they're committing to playing better defense. I don't think they're going to be all that good right out of the gate. So if LSU goes out there and scores 70, don't start putting them in the college football playoff just yet.
And this is year 3 of Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. There is no proof that Lincoln Riley knows how to build a program. No proof at all.
Well, if I was a Southern Cal fan, it would bother me that it took him not only 2 years in your program, but the years that he had at Oklahoma to finally wake up and say, oh, we need defense to win games, or big games at least.
Interesting.
Like that hit him on the head finally. And, yeah, they went out there and got DeAnton Lynn from UCLA to help, improve things, but you can't build a defense overnight.
No, and really that program going into year 3 took a huge step back in year 2.
Yeah.
And again, Garrett Riley, first year, you brought in guys from the portal, and you also took the guys that were left from the Clay Helton regime, and you won 10 games. You won double-digit games, almost made the college football playoff last
Got a
year.
Heisman Trophy out of it.
And last year you took a huge step back because, again, you couldn't tackle or stop anybody.
Right.
So we'll see, but that's going to be an interesting game, Southern Cal LSU. All right, we will come back. I said we're going to look at the first few weeks of this, and we're going to do that. And you know what we haven't done in a while, Tyler?
What's that?
Ceiling floor. Got to get back to ceiling floor in the SEC. That is coming up. It's football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
Welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford along with you on this Thursday here on the game. Again, reminder, today, 4 o'clock, Coach Mainieri press conference, which you'll be able to listen to right here on the game. And Jay and Elijah will be broadcasting the the post-game show, live out there at the presser. And hopefully they'll be able to grab Coach Mainieri, Coach Tanner as well. And then tomorrow, they were originally supposed to be out at Anglerfish today in Lexington. They'll be out there tomorrow afternoon from 3 until 6. You can go by, hang out with them. Also, get one of our craft beer cards, which you can also purchase on our website by clicking on the Sweet Deals tab on 1075thegame.com.
$360 value for $79.
It's a pretty good deal.
If you dig craft beer, you got to get a craft beer. We call it a passport.
And Angry Fish has plenty of craft beer.
I still love it. We drink all we can and sell the rest. This is a great slogan. It's fantastic. We'll be out there tomorrow with Jay and Elijah on the postgame show. All right, football, the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We're just taking a look at a nice breakdown by the Athletic on some of the key games through the SEC schedule the upcoming season. We're focusing on week 1 to 4, and we'll piece through it. It'll take a couple days, but week 2, Tyler, is the September 7th week. South Carolina, Kentucky. That is a big game. It really is.
I've described that as a game that both fan bases look at and say, we should win that. And it is, especially for South Carolina, who, again, based on projections, going to be hovering right around that 500 mark. That is your swing game to me that could decide if you go to a bowl or not.
And it's a winnable game. You won in Lexington 2 years ago. Kentucky's adding a lot of new pieces, offensive coordinator, quarterback, some skill positions. They got some nice wide receivers, but there's skill position people they got to replace.
Right.
The defense doesn't, on paper, look as good as past Kentucky defenses. So, and look, Stoops is going to win his 6. Always does.
Of course.
But it's built. The schedule's built to win 6. But they're not, it doesn't feel like they're as good as they've been the last couple years. You can get them in Lexington, especially early where they're trying to figure everything out.
Well, and I think it's interesting, too, as much as we don't know about Lenore Sellers, I feel like we know even less about Brock Vandegrift.
Yeah.
And again, 5-star kid, got a chance to come in and mop up time at Georgia for a couple years there, but still, I mean, he's yet to start a game himself. They'll play Southern Miss the week before, but that's not going to tell us a whole lot, much like beating Old Dominion here is probably not going to tell us everything about South Carolina. So really, these two teams are going to go into that game with more questions than answers about each one.
You start learning, and again, you don't learn everything, but you start learning in week 2.
Yes.
For both of those programs.
And hey, you better learn pretty quick because guess who's coming to town the next weekend?
Uh-huh. All right, so that game is, and that's the afternoon window, 3:30 ABC. 2 interesting night games. Well, 2 interesting night games and another interesting game that's not on ESPN. South Florida goes to Alabama. Now, you figure, why is that interesting? Well, we still don't know about Alabama. We know they got a ton of talent. We know Kalen DeBoer is a winner, but Kalen DeBoer has coached as many games at Alabama as David Ayer.
Right.
South Florida, you brought in the OC from Tennessee last year, our boy Alex.
Yep.
They won 7 games. They're bringing back 72% of their offensive production.
And they were, 1-11 the year before?
Yeah.
They're bad.
So I'm not saying they're going to beat Alabama, but they might scare the bejesus out of Alabama.
Scared them pretty good last year.
Exactly. Remember that game?
That was a 7-point game until the last minute, I believe.
That game soured everybody on Alabama for months.
Well, and that was the game that Jalen Milroe never touched the field because they lost Texas the week before. They're like, get out. Jalen Milroe's not the guy. Get him out there. And Nick Saban's like, all right, you want to see these other guys? You want to see Tyler Buckner play quarterback at Alabama?
Ty Simpson out there for you.
Yeah, we'll show you.
Yeah, we dusted off Joe Namath. He's wearing his fur.
And you know what he did after the game? Anybody want to complain about Jalen Milroe now?
And because of that game, even though Alabama kept stacking wins, no one took them seriously.
Right.
Until they fell into the college football. Well, until they beat Georgia in the SEC championship.
I was going to say, we weren't taking them seriously after they needed a miracle to beat Auburn.
Remember that?
In the last week of the regular season.
That made it even worse.
Yeah.
Because you're like, the only reason you beat Auburn was some miracle play. You shouldn't even be in the SEC championship game.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they beat Georgia and they're in the college football playoff and they really should have beat Michigan.
Weird final year for Saban.
Absolutely. So we'll just because that game, the unknown still of what's going on at Alabama, but they should win, but it might be a little fun tilt to keep your eyeball on. Other late night game, Tennessee and NC State. Again, it's a game that Tennessee should win.
Yeah.
But NC State, it's a good program. It really is. They're not great, but they're a good program.
They are a solid B-level ACC team.
So if you don't show up taking them seriously, guess what happens to you?
Well, go look what happened when Clemson went up there last year.
You get beat. You don't take them serious. You bring your C or D game.
Yep.
You get beat by NC State.
And again, we put a lot of praise on Nico Imalavea as this next great thing. Yeah, he started the ball game against Iowa,
Who didn't have their best
defensive player. So here's your first test.
We'll see. So that's going to be interesting, too. And obviously, the big game is Texas in the big house against Michigan.
Yes.
And that will tell you a little bit about, okay, it's early. You can't make any absolutes on anyone. But it'll give you a little peek on Michigan with a new head coach and a new quarterback and a new lot because they're replacing a lot of talent.
Right.
And it'll tell you a little something about Texas because Michigan wants a rock fight.
I feel like Michigan could walk out of this game very concerned about their season.
I don't disagree.
If Texas goes in there, wins by 2 or 3 scores, looking around like Harbaugh's not here, McCarthy, Corum, all those guys are gone.
Who gave this guy the head coaching gig?
We might be in trouble this year.
Sharon's crying for a different reason after the game. And look, let's say Texas loses.
Could happen.
You're walking out of there going, is Texas really back?
I was going to say, and that's before they've even played a conference game.
Yeah, so that one's going to be fun. All right, that's the first couple of weeks. We'll piece through this. I thought it was going to, hopefully we could do 4 weeks at a time, but maybe 2 at a time. There's a lot to talk about, so we'll get to more of it tomorrow. Let's come back here. We got to do a ceiling floor. It's been a while. Where should we go?
I will reach into our bag of SEC teams, and I'll surprise you.
Let's make it a surprise. Ceiling floor in the SEC from Andy Staples and his crew on 3. We'll do that next. We'll pick out an SEC squad, and Tyler will make it a surprise. How much fun is that? Also, I'll throw out another one. Run this through your head. 2 coaches are on the hot seat in the SEC. Billy Napier, Sunbelt Billy, and Uncle Sam.
Yep.
Will either one get fired in season?
Ooh, good question.
Think about that. Halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors right here on The Game. All right, so we go through all the stuff with the Men's Clinic of South Carolina all the time. If you're not feeling like you, for whatever the variety of reasons we discuss, right? But look, dudes aren't comfortable talking about stuff. We're guys. We don't talk about anything. We feel uncomfortable. You know, it's anxiety, right? Blathering about, well, this doesn't go the way it used to. But that's okay. Dr. Dan and his staff know that. They specialize in this. They'll bring you in with a consultation. You call 803-875-MENS. You go in. It's obviously confidential. You sit down. They listen to you and whatever's going on in your life. If they think it could be something as simple as low testosterone, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low T, they'll sit you down again and put a personalized program together to help you start feeling better about you again. Very easy, very simple. They specialize in it. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, 803-875-MENS. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game today, 3 to 6. Post-game show live at the Cockaboose for the big goings-on, the official introductory presser for the new South Carolina baseball coach. Paul Mainieri, also Ray Tanner will be around. Obviously, Monty Lee, Terry Rooney. We're going to get as many of these folks as we possibly can on the air. We will have an exclusive sit-down with the new baseball coach, Jay and Elijah, and Haley hanging out there on the post-game show on the game. Again, 3 to 6 from the Cockaboose today over by Williams-Brice. Angry Fish tomorrow, 3 to 6 in Lexington, one of our craft beer road shows. All right, we're going to do ceiling floor. You're going to surprise me. What you got?
Probably hope I just turn my microphone on.
That would help. By the way, how's your passwords?
That's the less we say about it, the better, Terry. I have done everything that I can do on my end.
If you missed it yesterday, Tyler hadn't been on the other side producing for 4 days because he was filling in for Bill. So Tyler went back over in the producer studio to produce the show, and Tyler was like, oh, bleep, I forgot my password.
Yeah.
You tried 100 passwords. None worked.
I tried every conceivable combination, and then I went through the proper channels to reset my password, and that didn't work either. So now, because here's the thing, I reset it. I wrote down what it is. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to log into my other places. When I tried to get back into this computer, it said no. So I was like, Dave, log in for me. I'm going to use your stuff for the time being. I promise I won't write anything nasty on your Facebook wall or hit on Lane Kiffin's ex-wife.
Yeah, because that's Dave's wheelhouse there, because he's buds with Lane Kiffin's ex-wife on Facebook.
He is. I have not checked the DMs, so...
we might do that while we still have Dave's login to see what's up.
It is the summer.
Yes, it is.
All right, so
who are we getting?
We're going to venture out to Texas, but not for the Longhorns, the Aggies.
I've got their ceiling probably a little high.
Okay.
But if everything breaks the right way, and I also am accounting for what I saw when Elko took over at Duke, which was a team that played very much above its station in life. Yes. And so 10-2 and getting into the CFP.
I don't hate that, Andy.
You have to beat Notre Dame to do that. Like, you have to beat Notre Dame. You could probably lose to Texas, but you got to beat Notre Dame and probably beat LSU to make that happen.
By the way, they get to face their old boy and Riley Leonard with that staff.
Exactly. The storylines just write themselves.
Interesting.
That is lofty expectations for year one. For Elko to be able to come in there and do something that Kevin Sumlin never did, to do something that Jimbo Fisher never did, and take them to the college football playoff. And I get it. It's changed because it's a 12-team format now, but still, that's pretty lofty.
And basically what you're saying is that Mike Elko is just going to do a heck of a lot better job than Jimbo Fisher could do, because it's going to be a lot of Jimbo's players, the highly recruited players that Jimbo brought in that have stayed, that haven't left. A lot of them left.
Right.
But you still have talent in College Station. So you're saying Elko can come in, new voice, can take that talent, maybe have an offensive coordinator who's not standing over there with an old school yellow pages full of plays like Jimbo would do.
Right.
And you're going to do a better job with a new voice and take this talented roster and go to the college football playoff. All right. The Notre Dame game, can A&M win that game? Sure they can.
Yeah.
You're going to win it. You should win at Florida. God love Uncle Sam at Arkansas. Missouri's going to be an interesting game, but that game's in College Station.
Yep.
And we don't know what Missouri is yet. LSU, again, where's that? College Station. You also get Texas where?
College Station.
College Station.
Oh, they're going to be amped for that one.
It is going to be insane.
If I had to say right now, I would probably give the advantage to A&M just because it's a home game.
Yeah, because they're going to be so lathered up to play Texas.
Yeah.
And Texas is going to go like this, whatever. I mean, Texas looks at Oklahoma as their real rival. Texas looks at A&M as the little redhead, toothless younger sister.
It's really funny how A&M and Oklahoma State can point fingers at each other and say, "Wow, we're kind of the same here," because they both look at their in-state school as their biggest rival, but that in-state school doesn't view them as their biggest rival.
Excellent point, and it drives them nuts. So A&M is going to be crazy lathered up for that, and would not stun me if they didn't win. But the schedule, look, you can make a case for having that kind of season. I don't think they will. I don't think they beat LSU, to be quite honest. I haven't bought into Notre Dame, so could A&M win that game? Sure. I don't know how good Missouri is.
Right.
I mean, and look, we don't even talk about this. You got to go to the Plains. We don't know. Look, Auburn last year, despite an offense that was putrid.
Not only that, Auburn in November.
Yes.
Which, if they didn't already have enough magic, it's extra special in November.
Hugh Freeze a good football coach. I mean, that's a toughie to roll into there, and look, we hope A&M has a tough time at Williams-Brice.
Yeah.
So I can't go 10-2, man. If Elko in his first year would go 8-4,
I think that's solid.
I think that's a solid way to roll.
Now, he's not walking in there proclaiming they're going to win undisclosed amounts of national championships like somebody did.
Yes, with the little fake. Didn't they have the fake trophy or something?
They gave him a plaque that basically said, like, insert the year.
That's what it was. Yeah,
and that didn't age well.
Yeah, that went well. That went well. So there's A&M. Now, the question I posed out to you, sir, is we look at two coaches in the SEC going into the season on the hot seat.
Yep.
Sunbelt Billy at Florida, Uncle Sam at Arkansas.
Right.
Your first thought, who gets fired first? And does either get fired in season? Your first thought, there is no doubt that Billy's going to be bounced, because that's the first thought.
Right. You would think so. I'm looking at Arkansas's schedule here.
And I got Florida's, so go ahead with Arkansas.
Yeah, so Arkansas starts off the season. They got Arkansas Pine Bluff. That's a win. They go on the road to Oklahoma State in week number 2.
Yeah.
I don't see you winning that one.
No, but here's the thing. Oklahoma State's so goofy. Oklahoma State can beat Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma State can lose. Who did they lose to last year at home? They got whooped.
It was BYU.
UAB or whatever it was.
BYU took them to the woodshed.
Yeah, that's right. BYU destroyed them.
I think that was the week after Bedlam, too, right?
I mean, Oklahoma State, you don't know what you get.
Yeah.
With our boy Mullet Head. You have no idea what you get. So my thought is like you. You're going to go to Stillwater and get beat.
Sure.
But I still think you get a loss.
If they won, I wouldn't be shocked. But let's go worst
I'm going
case
with
scenario.
Loss.
Let's
I'm going
say they
loss.
lose.
Yeah.
UAB in week number 3, so you're 2-1. You go on the road to the Plains after that.
That's probably an L.
Probably an L. So you're sitting at 2-2, and then you play A&M, and then you play Tennessee.
So you're 2-4,
and then you have the bye week before going and playing LSU.
Okay, so if those back-to-back losses are bad, the bye week typically is where you get the hammer.
Now there are 2 bye weeks.
Yep.
So after that, after the first bye week, you get LSU
2-5.
You go to Mississippi State
3-5.
And you probably win that game, and then you play Ole Miss at home.
3-6.
So then you have your second bye week before you play Texas.
Sam might not survive.
That might be the chopping block right there.
Yeah, and then the end of the year is, I forget, the last 3 are...
It's Texas, Louisiana Tech, that's a win, and then you go to Missouri.
So you're looking at a 4-8, 5-7 scenario probably.
Yeah.
But that 3-6, it feels like that's what the second bye week would be the spot.
Again, we were all shocked that he got another year.
And I love him. I want Uncle Sam to be successful like nobody's business.
He's the most personable, cool coach there is.
One of the coolest post-game, fired by damn jukebox. I love Sam.
Drink a cold beer.
I love Sam. He's got a pig in his front yard, for the love of God.
He fits Arkansas to a T.
Yes.
Because, I mean, and he's an offensive line guy by trade. Arkansas is known for good offensive linemen, the Hogs up front. Like, it just fits him. But if they can get to a bowl game, he's done there.
And he's going to have to win some games we don't think they can win to get to a bowl game this year in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at Sunbelt Billy really quick. Miami, that game's in Gainesville. I think Miami wins. Samford should be a win. Remember a couple years ago how that went.
Yeah.
But Samford should be a W. This is what's interesting. You get Texas A&M in the swamp. Now, again, we think Texas A&M should get a W there.
Right.
But there's no guarantee on A&M and what's going to happen under Elko in his first year. Then you get Mississippi State and Starkville. You should win that game. Central Florida has a ton of people coming back. But where's that game again? in the Swamp.
Yep.
So let's just for fun, before we get, because by the way, the rest of this is Murderer's Row.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just go with that scenario. There's 1, 2, 3. Let's be nice for a minute. Let's say Billy's 4-1.
That's pretty generous.
Okay, but then watch this.
All right.
At Tennessee.
L.
Kentucky's had your number lately, even though you get them in the Swamp.
I'll give you 50-50 on that.
Georgia.
L.
Texas.
L.
LSU.
L.
Ole Miss.
L.
Florida State.
L. So your best bet in the back half of the season is maybe beating Kentucky?
So 1, 2, 3, 4. You could conceivably have a 7-game losing streak or lose 6 of 7 to end the year.
Yeah. Here's the thing to me. Because, okay, well, let's go through that scenario again. What would their record be after the Georgia game if that played out the way that we predicted?
Let's do the generous scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 4-1, 4-2. Let's even give them Kentucky.
Okay, sure.
You'd be 5-3 after the Georgia game.
Because I was going to say, if the Georgia game is like a brutal beatdown loss, that could be when it happens because you're entering the last month of the season. Like, all right, we see where this is going. Let's go ahead and cut our bait. If you're 5-3, though,
But you're going to lose your last 4.
I mean, yeah, but like, do you want to admit that before the fact?
Yeah.
Because if you fire your coach before then, you're like, we know we're going to lose these last 4.
All right, let's do the worst. Ready?
All right.
Let's say you lose to Miami, you beat Samford, you lose to A&M, you beat Mississippi State, you're 2-2, lose to Central Florida 2-3, lose to Tennessee 2-4, lose to Kentucky 2-5, get boat raced by Georgia 2-6. See you bye.
Yeah, you're gone.
See you bye.
And I have a feeling Kirby might keep the foot on the pedal.
No, stop that.
I mean, you do have a player on your roster that's actively suing the other head coach.
It's not like you have a player on your roster suing Florida. I mean, really, the games you think are a no-brainer win for them would be Samford and maybe Mississippi State. That's it.
Unless Graham Mertz has a Joe Burrow-esque second year.
Yeah. Tough. All right. Firehouse Sub Text the hour, 803-404-6100. Football, 1 o'clock hour right here on the halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803 404 6100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
Yeah, John, our resident Texas fan, weighs in and says, horns down is all part of gamesmanship, not a big deal. And I feel like most Texas fans would probably agree with that. Like, I really don't care if people do horns down, but like the stance, the school athletic association, like the program has, like, I can't, it's not like they're flipping you the bird. You know what I mean? Like, it's different.
Here's the thing. And because the Big 12, again, put lips on backside of Texas for everything.
Well, that was their, them and Oklahoma are their cash cow, but Texas more so.
And really, that's why Nebraska left and Colorado left. They were like, you know what?
Yeah, which of those teams in the Big 12 got their own network, by the way?
Iowa State?
Yeah, no Cyclone Network.
Yeah, it wasn't a Cyclone Network. And by the way, how many people actually watch the Longhorn Network?
I don't even know how you get the Longhorn Network.
Did you ever watch did you have it on your cable system?
I don't think I have it.
I had it, and ask me the times I stopped and watched it.
How many?
I'm going to give you a multiple choice.
Did you watch that more than the ACC network?
I've actually watched the ACC network more.
Okay, that's not saying a whole lot.
That's not saying much. Here's the multiple choice of how many times I watched the Longhorn Network. A, 0.
Yep.
B, 0. C, 0.
Well, my thing is like, all right, sure, I'm sure they're probably showing like baseball and volleyball and stuff like that, but like the actual Texas football games are on regular television. Like, why do I need that? And how do you fill an entire programming block a day with just Texas stuff?
You don't.
At least with the SEC, you have the entire conference. Hey, we're going to look inside this team. We're going to show this team's old games. Like, I can't imagine just it for one team.
Texas squash, the untold story.
Yeah.
Tonight on the Longhorn Network.
We're going to, 8 o'clock, we're going to go to the intramural fields and watch pickup basketball.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what it was? Again, it was we're Texas.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. And again,
you got to the point, you looked around at every other power conference, they have their own network. And the Big 12's like, what about us? Yeah, sorry, we're tied up with this Longhorn Network thing.
Yeah. Yeah, every other conference had their network. The Big 12 had the Longhorn Network. So, again, that was just the Big 12 bowing to Texas.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't go to the Pac-12 and stay here, have your own network. We'll be okay. Whatever you want.
Sure.
We don't care. And this is Texas being Texas. But now you come into the SEC. I remember the first thing when it was Texas to the SEC, when people were starting, what about the Longhorn Network? Like, it's gone.
Yeah,
I told you that right away. It didn't, that was easy. See ya. See you, bye.
Yeah.
But Texter, I think and I agree with you. I think most fans think like John. A lot of the fans don't care.
But what the program has inadvertently done is created this like uppity perception of the fan base that like they think they're high and mightier than everybody else, which I don't think that's necessarily the case. No. But like you create this perception, this public space, and then again, your basketball coach goes crying on television whenever an opposing team does it to you from the stands. Like, come on, you're just making yourself look stupid.
You look silly, and you look thin-skinned, and you look petty. It's just not a good look.
No.
And like John said, it's gamesmanship, but it is. Someone does the upside down horns, you do something back to them.
Sure.
It's gamesmanship, and it shouldn't be this ridiculousness behind it. Like, Rodney Terry, it's embarrassing. Or the Big 12, we're gonna fine people. Stop it, please. Thank you for the text, like always, 803-404-6100. One football note I got to get to because we just always like to make Tyler miserable about the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons on Thursday were docked a fifth-round pick in the 2025 draft and fined $250,000 for violating the NFL's anti-tampering policy related to free agency signings.
It was coming.
By the way, the league cleared the Eagles for tampering against Saquon Barkley.
Sure they did.
But let me ask you this.
Okay.
If Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, Charlie Warner are productive and help the Falcons get to the playoffs, do you really care about losing a fifth-round pick and $250,000?
I think it's worth a fifth-round pick. I think they'll be okay. And, considering the quarterback play they've had the past couple of years, and look, is Kirk Cousins a future Hall of Famer? Likely not, unless he just turns up the wick in these last couple of years for his career. But he's a solid, serviceable quarterback that can get you over 500 and get you to the playoffs.
Is he going to make your eyes burn like the last couple of years?
Probably
Watching
not.
quarterbacks play?
Now, here's the thing. The good thing, the Falcons are on, I think, a couple of primetime games this year. Primetime Kirk Cousins is not as good as 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins, so the more 1 p.m. games they have, the better.
Matter of fact, if you're a Falcon fan, you don't want primetime games.
You do not.
No, you don't.
No.
No. So to me, this is the NFL just doing this. Little hand slap.
You have to do something, right? Like you can't just, you have to set a precedent across the league.
And the NFL knows that the Atlanta Falcons could care less about a fifth-round pick and $250,000.
We're not going to pretend that all the teams aren't tampering, right?
No one did with the Falcons.
No one did with the Falcons. It's just you get, some teams get caught.
Well, again, that speaks to something else. How dope are you to get caught?
Yeah. Well, what were you doing so out in the open?
Because everybody's doing it. Oh, anyway, I thought we'd throw that in because...
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Again, we always like to make Tyler miserable about the Falcons. All right, we'll get back in here. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. You know, there's another coach who had a press conference yesterday at South Carolina.
That's right.
We'll get to that next. Also, here's some Jerry West. I think that's a very interesting piece of sound as well. That is coming up on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Again today, 4 o'clock. What's trending here on the game in Columbia at 107.5. New South Carolina head baseball coach Paul Mainieri. His presser will be carrying that live here in Columbia. Jay and Elijah, the postgame show, will be at the presser. It'll be at the Cockaboose right there by Williams-Brice. And Jay and Elijah will be there from 3 to 6. We'll have an exclusive with Paul Mainieri during that time frame. Also, hopefully we'll get Ray Tanner. Terry Rooney, the new pitching coach, recruiting coordinator, will be there. Obviously, Monty Lee will be there. Maybe we can get Monty on as well. And all that going on today from 3 to 6 on the postgame show. And tomorrow, we moved our Angry Fish live broadcast to 3 to 6 tomorrow in Lexington. So all that's happening later today with the presser at 4 o'clock. All right. Another coach was named yesterday, Tyler.
That's right.
Well, not named, but the press conference. Ashley Chastain, former Gamecock, coming back to replace Beverly Smith as the new head softball coach. Did nice work at her previous stop in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And now she's home. And she talks about that. Let's get cut one about her coming back to South Carolina.
Absolutely. I love this place, and I was telling someone earlier today in an interview that I was doing that my original plan was to be a high school history teacher. I had a high school history teacher that really inspired me. I think it was my junior year of high school, and I came here and got a bachelor's in history and then stayed to get a secondary education degree in social studies. And then the game just never left me. And so then I started thinking about coaching and how that really, I think, was my path. And here we are many years later. So as I got into coaching and was provided many opportunities, this has always been my dream. And I'm just really thankful for the opportunity because you don't get many chances to coach at your alma mater.
We've talked about this a lot lately, right?
Right.
It's not about getting anything but the right coach.
Right.
Wherever they come from. Whether they graduated from your school, they're from your state, they're not from your state, they didn't graduate from your school. It doesn't matter. Just get the right coach.
Right.
We've seen people come back to their alma mater and be really successful, like Jim Harbaugh, Steve Spurrier. We've seen disasters like Scott Frost, Patrick Ewing, Juwan Howard. It's about getting the right coach. And if the right coach so happens to be from your alma mater, awesome. But get the right coach.
Yeah, that should be, I don't know, 5th or 6th on the priority list. Like, all right, are they a good coach? Can they win? Have they built a program? And so on and so forth. And then if you get to the end of it and say, hey, did they go to the school here? And that's a yes, that's just a plus. And that may be something that'll get people on a little quicker. But, again, should not be the determining factor on why or why not you hire a head coach. That being said, Coach Chastain did do a very good job in her time at Charlotte. Still a very, very young head coach. Was only there since the start of the 2020 season, which, of course, that season didn't end up running to fruition. So good, solid, time there at Charlotte. And now she's going to have resources and a lot more, of a rich talent pool to pull from here at South Carolina, where hopefully she can do what, the reason why Beverly Smith got moved on from is not able to get past that the first round of the NCAA tournament.
And the losing record in the SEC.
That too, which, by the way, Oklahoma's now in the SEC, so things aren't getting any easier.
No. And by the way, who did Oklahoma beat in the championship?
That'd be Texas.
Where's Texas this year?
In the SEC as well.
Exactly. The one thing about Coach Chastain, and you brought up how young she is, so if it does work, you got a young coach.
Yes.
That can, you hope, will grow and evolve with the program, and you don't have to worry about the softball coach for a while.
Right.
And, again, perfect world, it's wildly successful, and you got a former Gamecock.
Right.
All right, here's the other thing with Coach Chastain, talking about changing the trajectory, of the program. Let's get cut to, Tyler.
Yeah, tall task, right? College softball is just really booming across the country right now. It's really fun to watch. The talent in the game is the best it's ever been. So really excited for the challenge. If you'll get to know me, but my staff and I, we we love really great competition. So we're going to welcome those opportunities to play the best as we become one of the best. And we've got to get the right players. I mean, that's what it boils down to. We've got to recruit really well. And that's just not on-field talent, but it's the right people off the field too. We just need to make sure that all across the board we have the right players and develop them into being the best. So I was thinking about this the other day because I got asked a similar question, and I think it really, once all of those things are in place, then it's my job to instill the belief in them that they can be anyone they play. You know, and that was something that we did really well at Charlotte. You know, as I think back to the teams that I've coached the past few years, is, you know, when they put the uniform on, you know, they believed they could be anyone in the country. And, you know, they had a lot of success at some of those things. So now for me, just to watch our current team put on the Carolina uniform and really go out and believe that they're the best and that they're going to beat anyone they play, I think that's what it's going to be about.
Yeah, it's belief. You got to instill belief and confidence in your crew that they can beat anybody. Right. The other thing that Coach Chastain talked about was the resources of South Carolina and using those resources. And let's hit cut forward real quick, Tyler.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. You know, it just means more, right? But yeah, I mean, we've got to do it all. I think with what we want to do with the program and the level that we want to win, like we're going to be really good at all of it. So, you know, the transfer portal, we have a lot of experience with. The last few years at Charlotte, I think it was a way that we brought a lot of experience into the program that I was leading at that time and had some success in a short amount of time. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to use the portal. I think it's a great way to give players opportunities at a new start. Everyone has a story, everyone has a different journey, and I think it's really important to get to know that in the recruiting process as we go through the portal. But we're embracing it. You know, we want to get the best high school players in the country, but we also want to get the best players out of the portal, and we need both. Like, we need to bring both in and make that cohesive and, you know, marry those things together to have the best team that we can have here. So we're running full force in the portal and excited about those opportunities over the next few months as we build this team for the fall. As far as NIL goes, yeah, we're going to need a lot of support, and I think for me, that's going to be building relationships in the community and just building a lot of rapport with, you know, people that are excited about what we're doing that are going to support us. So I think that comes down to personal connections and relationships that I'm going to work really hard at moving forward.
I mean, she hit it. The NIL's connections. You got to get out there if you're a head coach. And you got to hit the rotary. You got to talk to the fans. You got to get people lathered up to actually open up their wallet and break out their ATM card.
Right.
It's just what you got to do. And hey, good luck. Hopefully it works out. Young coach, former Gamecock, some success early in her career at Charlotte, and hopefully she can translate that into a really, really nice competitive program in South Carolina.
Right.
Good luck. All right. Yesterday, obviously, we talked about Jerry West passing away at the age of 86. And I mean, the love for Jerry West yesterday, you saw it. If you watched ESPN or you went online or whatever, and, you know, maybe you didn't know. Maybe you just knew Jerry West as this old dude sitting at games as an executive.
Sure.
And you didn't know that he was a former head coach for a few minutes. Or besides the fact being a Hall of Fame GM, he was an assassin as a player, except when they played the Celtics. I mean, he was the only NBA player, to my memory, that won the finals MVP on a losing team.
That's right. Jerry
West could ball. I mean, there's no three-point line. God knows how many points Jerry West would have accumulated if there's a three-point line, because Jerry West was knocking down 30-footers. And great college career at West Virginia. And then there was something else, Howard, and I'd forgotten about this, and I heard this yesterday. Again, he grew up in West Virginia. And then, of course, moved out to L.A.
Yep.
There's a story about when he was growing up, and I heard this and I'd forgotten about it, that, you know, his father was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, he was like, if you touch Mom again, I'm going to kill you. He slept with a shotgun.
Yeah.
In his bedroom. And if his father was going to go in there and beat Mom anymore, Jerry West was going to end it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that at 12 years old.
Oof.
Go down that road at 12 years old. I mean, just a man, a fascinating life. just a great player. But the thing about Jerry West, if you hear Jerry West interviews, I brought this up a little bit yesterday. Jerry West doesn't talk about the NBA championship he won finally with the Lakers when they beat the Knicks in the early 70s. Jerry West doesn't talk about all the championships he won as an executive with the Lakers, how he brought in Kobe and Shaq in the same year and he hired Phil Jackson and all that stuff. Jerry West will talk about how losing to the Celtics aided him his whole life.
Yep.
6 times Jerry West Lakers lost to the Celtics in the NBA Finals. 8 at him. And Jerry West had a very interesting description of himself, and you have cut 5 there, Tyler. Hit it up.
That's who I am, but I was not afraid. And today, again, I was getting at the players that are drafted today, and everyone, competitive people, the word dog comes up a lot. That guy's a dog. That guy, well, I was a wolf, okay? I used to eat dogs.
Jerry West was. I mean, again, Jerry West was before my time.
Yeah.
But you watch video of Jerry West, and you hear the stories of Jerry West, and you see the stats of Jerry West. There's a reason why that cat was a logo.
Yeah, it was a standard.
Unbelievable. So I just want to play that because I heard that cut and I saw you had it, and I was like, it's a phenomenal cut. U.S. Open going on right now. Tiger Woods finished up at 4 over. And the weather plays well for Tiger, you would think, because it's warmer. He played earlier. Again, we love watching Tiger Woods actually go on a golf course and play, but we have to be realistic about who Tiger Woods is now.
Yeah, I know he got off to a pretty good start this morning, but kind of came back down to earth as the day went along. Yeah. But yeah, I know we enjoyed that brief little redemption 5 years ago, winning the Masters and all that kind of stuff. But I think his best days are certainly behind him.
Well, think about it. First of all, he was having the injury issues before he won that Masters. He came back and won that Masters in the car accident.
Yep.
Which added to the other injuries, more injuries. Then you look at age, and it's just, look, I'm a Tiger Woods fan. I've always admitted it. I've always been a huge Tiger Woods fan. Since Stanford,
Yep.
I was a Tiger Woods fan. But you have to be realistic if he does compete in a major or really almost any tournament anymore, that's an added plus to your enjoyment as a Tiger Woods fan.
Oh, absolutely. And golf wants him to be out there as long as he possibly can be, because regardless of if he's competitive enough or not, he drives eyes and brings money to it.
He brings money.
Which goes back to our conversation after Scheffler won the Masters before he got arrested, of course. Golf needs that next superstar, and I don't know who that's going to be.
Yeah, there'll never be another Tiger Woods just for all the reasons off the golf course. Not just the fact he was so dominant on the golf course and he wore the red shirt on Sundays and all that, but just he brought people to the game who had never wanted to play the game.
Right.
And it's just you're not going to get the same from anyone else. He was truly, forget generational, he was a once-in-a-lifetime talent for the game of golf.
Right.
Casual fans actually cared about golf.
Yes.
Because of Woods. Right now, Patrick Cantlay of the U.S. leading 5 under right now. He's a shot up early at the first round of the U.S. Open. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. We will get back in here, and we'll hear some more from Cole Messina and Ethan Petrie. They were on the Garnet Trust Hour. Chris Clark, excellent conversation with those two. We'll hear more of their thoughts on the new baseball coach at South Carolina. That's coming up. What's trending at 2 on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here till 3. Then a special post-game show from the Cockaboose and the big press conference for our new USC baseball coach. All that's coming up here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game as we are looking at what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. All right, Cole Messina and also Ethan Petrie on the Garnet Trust Hour. Nice little conversation with Chris Clark yesterday, or today rather. Let's go to a couple cuts. First, Ethan Petrie talking about trusting the resume of the new baseball coach, Paul Mainieri.
Yeah, I think that goes with it, and also him, showing us, his ways of how he wants to play the game and how he wants to, go about the game, and we trust that what he has done over the past 15 to 20 years, we trust of what he's teaching us, we can do. So, I feel like, actually, I was at the Rays game when I found out. So I found out he was getting into the searching, with the baseball search, baseball head coach search. And I found out, and I was already in the baseball mood. So, I got really excited, and I saw that, he has this huge resume, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's, he's unreal.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you look at that resume and you're a player and you just Wikipedia this guy, Google search it, you see a guy that's been to the College World Series in 2 different stops.
Right.
Super regionals, NCAA tournaments, and a stadium named after him.
That is also a pretty big deal.
St. Thomas.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's where he started his head coaching
all-time
career.
winningest coach at St. Thomas. His father also has a connection to St. Thomas. The ballpark is named after Paul Mainieri.
I can't think of too many sitting active head coaches that have, places named after them like that. So that's pretty cool. But again, and look, he hasn't been out of the game for a long time. It's only been 3 years, but I think about it from the perspective of okay, well, whatever the next crop of talent coming in as true freshmen in 2025, they would have been freshmen or 8th graders when he stepped away from coaching. So there may not be as much familiarity with this current crop of players as, he obviously had, a couple years ago, but his accomplishments speak for themselves. And, I said this the other day that even in his last year, when people say it was a, down year for LSU, they still went to a super regional.
Yeah.
They were still in a good place on the doorstep of going to Omaha before he decided to step away. So that program is in good shape. And obviously Jay Johnson has, led them to another national championship, since then. So, and that's the big point here is South Carolina. It's not down in the dumps. It's not the bottom tier of the SEC. You're a good program. You're just not a great program. And Paul Mainieri is supposed to come in here and elevate you back to being a great program again. Again, that resume that tells you that he can do it.
Well, the interesting part of this, and you're right, a down year is going to the supers.
Right.
When you're knocking on the door of going to Omaha. And programs look, South Carolina, when they went 3 straight years and 6 times under Ray Tanner, then all of a sudden anything except Omaha is a downer.
Right.
I understand that to a point, but also no one in the history of college baseball has gotten to Omaha every year.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It's just not going to work that way. You're not going to make it every year.
Though sometimes the ball is just going to bounce the other way on.
Right. So if you're getting to supers all the time, eventually you're going to get to Omaha and Omaha multiple times.
Right.
And I think that's what Paul Mainieri has done at LSU, and he got to Notre Dame to the College World Series as well. That's a resume. By the way, you know what's interesting? He took over at Notre Dame for a dude named Pat Murphy.
That's right.
Pat Murphy put Notre Dame on the map. You know where Pat Murphy is now, right?
Where is that?
The manager of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, well, there you go.
That Pat Murphy. He went to Arizona State, got Arizona State to the College World Series multiple times. Then he left on a recruiting scandal where basically Arizona State brought Pat Murphy and said, you got 2 choices. Quit or we're going to fire you.
Yeah.
So Pat Murphy went, okay, I'll quit. And then he went to work for the Padres. And now he's a manager of the Brewers. And Arizona State, I don't think, has been back to the College World Series since Murphy left. I don't think
so.
But anyway, that's the guy that built Notre Dame and handed off to Paul Mainieri. And Mainieri obviously made the College World Series and many College World Series at LSU. All right, Monty Lee is important here, retaining Lee as an assistant. And Cole Messina kind of explains why the players on this Gamecock team love Monty Lee so much.
There's one word that, comes to my mind, and it's relationships. He worries more about our families, our day-to-day life than I think baseball, which as a player means a lot to me. I'm not going to speak for Pat, but I know how he feels and that it means a lot to him. And, having a guy like that in your corner, no matter who the head guy is good, just because you could really, really like a head coach, but and also like assistant coach, or it could be opposite. Really, really, really hate a head coach, but have the assistant to lean on to, and get food and make it fun for you. So I just think he plays like that middle guy almost, you could say, and he looks out for players. He's a grinder.
So there you go. I mean, cares about the players in there grinding every day. And again, players love and respect that from a coach.
They do, and we go back to last week where there were so many players and recruits that were advocating for Mainieri to become the head coach, and while that didn't end up happening, he's still on the staff, which I think still satisfies most of them up to this point because you want that familiarity. Well, when you're on a team and they fire your coach and seemingly clean house around you, well, those new coaches have no loyalty to you. They didn't recruit you. They didn't, they're not the ones that put you in their starting lineup. You don't know what your future is going to be. So to have somebody like Mainieri that, as Coach Mainieri's coming in and learning about everybody and all that kind of stuff, can say, hey, here's what we did with this guy, here's what we did with this guy, here's what this guy's good at, here's what this guy needs to be developed with, where you have somebody in there that kind of give you the rundown on who these guys are to where it's not a total start over from scratch kind of thing.
And that is a chance to hold continuity.
Yes.
Because, again, we talked about it. That isn't everything, but if you can bring in a high-level coach with a resume and keep the assistant coach who is loved and respected by the players, that's a double win, right?
Right.
And again, Mainieri today at 4 o'clock. We'll be doing the post-game show 3 to 6 from Cockaboo's at Williams-Brice with Jay and Elijah. Real quick, NBA Finals last night. Dallas goes down 3-0. Celtics will win the NBA Finals. Here's the list of teams who have come back from 3-0. Okay, we're done. And last night, Luka Doncic is a phenomenal offensive talent, one of the 3 most skilled offensive players in the NBA. But defensively, he's a huge liability. And B, he's a constant whiner and complainer to the refs all the time. He's been like that his whole career. It's not like he just popped up.
I was going to say, when you're already in foul trouble, I don't know if I would risk something that probably wasn't going to get called your way anyway.
I mean, look, Doncic, you don't foul out with 3.5 minutes to go in a game that if your team loses their season, 99% positive is over.
And I thought it was funny because Dallas actually got off to a pretty decent start last night. And, we talked about this the other day. It's like, they'll probably win one game at home. That's kind of how these things usually go before Boston, ends up taking 4 out of 5 or whatever it may be. But, man, after Boston woke up in the second half, and, the Mavericks put together a run in the fourth quarter that closed the gap a little bit.
That was a great run.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think it's crazy to think that Boston's just going to sweep this thing on Friday.
Yeah. Look, Doncic, the thing that gets me is you can't foul out there. You got to know you have 5 fouls. And it's not like you're a great defender anyway, and half the time you don't even try on defense. So why are you stepping in at that point trying to draw a charge with your 5th foul? That just makes no sense. And then you double down post-game by blaming the refs and not understanding your accountability on it.
Right.
Doncic is a phenomenal offensive talent. But defensively, if you look at his defensive metrics, they're a better team defensively without Doncic on the floor.
Right.
And Luka, and they showed some other deep dive defensive metrics about blow by, which means the guy with the ball blows by you.
Mm.
He has the 3 highest blow by rates since that metric came up in series. So look, again, his goal is to score buckets, assist on buckets, triple doubles, all those things. But you've got to give more effort on defense. And you got to be smart, and you got to quit belly aching every time you get a call against you. Look, there's a lot of NBA guys who do that.
Sure.
But you got to know when to shut up and play ball. And you got to know with 5 fouls, you don't try to take a block 30 feet from the basket or 20 feet from the basket. So that was on Luka last night. And the other thing I'll say this, and I've said this before, he's phenomenal, but our guy's going to have to he's going to have to meet a treadmill and maybe cut back on the Little Debbie cakes.
It's funny. My wife was sitting on the couch, and I turned the game on, and she looked at him, and she's like, he doesn't look like a basketball player.
Well, he's the thing. He's so skilled and talented. But, that baby fat you were carrying when you came in the league at 18, 19, 20,
sure,
you're 25 now. Guess what? It doesn't go lower unless you start doing something. You've seen a lot of NBA players, they get older, get themselves in better shape. Look, Charles Barkley, there's a reason they called him the mound round of rebound when he came in from Auburn.
Right.
Barkley lost weight, got in shape, and became a killer. Luka's going to have to take a look at resculpting that body as he gets older. So, and how much of this injury problem is the fact you're not in great shape? I don't know. But anyway, Luka, come on, man. Enough. I will get back in your greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Time for a quick look at the greatest day in the history of the world, which is June 13th. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. Coming up at 3 o'clock from the Cockaboose. A special post-game show with Jay and Elijah. Paul Mainieri, his introductory presser will be at 4 o'clock. We'll get an exclusive with the new Carolina baseball coach. Also, hopefully we'll talk to Monty Lee and Terry Rooney and hopefully the AD Ray Tanner. We're going to give it a try to get as many folks on as possible as we do a special post-game show from the Cockaboose. Right smack in the middle will be the Paul Mainieri press conference on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, not on our affiliates in Florence and Myrtle Beach, though. All right, so greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. On this day, June 13th, as we scroll back up and down this little list. Last year, Vegas Knights won the Stanley Cup. Remember, they played for it as an expansion team a few years earlier and lost it.
Yep.
Won the Stanley Cup, taking out the Florida Panthers, who will win this year's Stanley Cup, I feel like. We don't really talk a ton of hockey here, but I figured the Panthers would win because they're just a deeper team.
Yep.
They're better defensively, especially in goal. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, if you got a goalie standing on his head making saves and you have the better goaltender and you're deeper, typically you win.
That's right.
I know Edmonton's got the best players in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but Florida has the better team. And typically that wins in the Stanley Cup Finals. And Florida's up 2-0. They won both at home. Now Game 3 is in Edmonton coming up. Is it tonight or tomorrow night? It's tonight, I think.
I think tonight.
Yeah, I think it's tonight.
Because they typically try not to go head-to-head with the NBA Finals. It's
interesting really quick, and we'll get back to this day in history, the greatest day in history of the world. Connor McDavid, this was brought up about Luka Doncic last night, and I heard it because Luka's getting a lot of shade for the first time, really.
Yep.
Because he's been a darling ever since he came in the NBA. And any issues have always been explained away. Oh, it's the Mavs, it's coaching, it's management, it's teammates, it's whatever. And someone brought up, there are players in sports who get passes.
Sure.
When some don't.
Sure.
And one that was brought up was Connor McDavid. First time Connor McDavid's made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. He's been around, almost 9 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the best player in the game. But how much of that should criticism go to Connor McDavid? Because a lot of people have blamed the Edmonton Oilers front office, coaching, lack of consistent goaltending, defense, whatever. And no one's ever put any criticism on Connor McDavid.
Right.
Another one that I thought of was Justin Herbert.
That's a good point.
Herbert never gets criticized at all. It's always the Chargers coaching staff, Chargers ownership, Chargers front office. No one ever says, well, Herbert should be getting better.
Yeah.
And if you look at Herbert's numbers, like throwing down the field, he's really great with the shorties, the shorty throws. But as you start throwing it down the field, despite that big arm he has, he's not as good as a down-the-field thrower as you think he would be. But no one ever brings that up because he's Justin Herbert. He's got cool hair.
Yeah. Well, and now that you're paired up with Harbaugh, and again, Harbaugh was salivating at the thought of working with Justin Herbert, this is probably where the excuses come to an end.
I was going to say, now this goes to Herbert,
If it doesn't work out, it's not because Jim Harbaugh's not a good coach, because we know he is. It's Justin Herbert not being a good enough quarterback.
Right. And the other guy, I went to baseball, and I really had to dig around because baseball's such a team game.
Sure.
The one guy I thought of that no one has ever been critical at all, despite the fact he's only been to the postseason once, is Mike Trout.
Yeah.
The only thing now is he's hurt all the time.
That's true. And, before Ohtani came along, it very much was he's a big fish in a pond of other fish you've never heard of.
Right, ready, dead fish.
Pretty much.
Because we always focus on the Angels, have a terrible owner in Artie Moreno.
Yep.
Their front office has been a joke, and Moreno's a meddler. Since Mike Scioscia left, they don't really give managers an opportunity to do anything there. It's been everything. The pitching staff's been terrible.
Right.
I think out of those 4 guys, the one guy you can really legit not give a lot of criticism to is Trout.
Probably.
Because his 4 at-bats a day, he did his job. In the field, he does his job. On the bases.
Yeah, if he goes 3 for 4 and with a home run and the team, loses, 4-2, that's not his fault necessarily.
And Trout can't pitch.
No, he can't.
So I think out of those guys, because I thought of Trout and Herbert, I thought McDavid was interesting. Out of those 4 guys, Doncic, McDavid, Herbert, and Trout, I think Trout is a guy you can legitimately not really throw a lot of criticism at.
Right.
Because there's not a whole lot you can do there in Disneyland. All right, greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Let's continue on. 2016. Cavaliers are in the middle of that run, coming back from a 3-1 deficit to beat Golden State. LeBron James, 41 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. Kyrie scored 41. Cavaliers, this one, Draymond Green was suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Cavaliers took advantage of it, won this game, pulled within 3-2, took that momentum, and won the series in 7. But that was the big game, the Game 5 without Draymond Green. For some reason, Steve Kerr left him in the game with a big lead, knowing he was 1 tech away from suspension. I love Steve Kerr.
Right.
I'm going to tell you now, though, I remember watching that thing going, you need to get that cat out of the game before he does something dumb. And he did something dumb. LA Kings won their 2nd Stanley Cup title on this day in 2014. Also, this one's interesting.
Okay.
We talk about pitchers who have thrown no-hitters, and the no-hitter became it's like everybody's throwing no-hitters anymore.
Sure.
Perfect game's still a rarity. And a really good pitcher that we don't talk about anymore because he wasn't maybe level 1, but he was like level 1 B or C. Matt Cain in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Threw the 22nd perfect game in Major League history today in 2012. Struck out 14 hitters. Matt Cain, good pitcher. Matt Cain was a former first-round pick. Matt Cain was a good pitcher. That's back then with Tim Lincecum and Cain, and the Giants were winning the World Series.
Yeah, good rotation there.
3 world championships, I think a 6-year span.
Sounds
in
about
San
right.
Francisco.
Yeah.
And the Bulls won their 5th title in 7 years on this day in 1997. Of course, they'd win their 6th the next year. On this day, though, Steve Kerr hit the last-second shot to give the Bulls a win over the Utah Jazz. Who made that pass?
I'm assuming Jordan?
Mm-hmm. Would I bring it up if it was Scottie Pippen?
Probably not.
No. Not at all. So that is the greatest day in the history of the world. Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I just saw this. Danny Hurley, he said that going out to talk to the Lakers was not a leverage play. Get this, though. Hurley was on Stu Gotz's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, my contract has been in place for a couple of weeks. The final part, the terms of salary, that's a done deal. Other parts, though, like the NIL and the staff salary and some other different things I want adjusted, I'm not comfortable with. But I didn't go out to L.A. as a leverage play for my contract.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
That's fine.
That's what you want us to believe.
That's fine. Or maybe you went out there with the idea you might be interested, and then you saw that dumpster fire and said, you know what?
Well,
I'm good.
Looks like it's J.J. Redick's problem now.
It is, because J.J. Redick's going to interview over the weekend and will be named Monday or Tuesday the head coach of the Lakers.
Don't you kind of feel like the hollaback girl at that point in time?
Yes.
We initially thought they were going after him before the Hurley thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, we're all in Dan Hurley. Well, Dan Hurley told you no. Hey, JJ, you want to come hang out?
Ready? Hey, try this one. Because, again, J.J. Redick will take the job.
Sure, of
Ready?
course.
Ready? But just put that in what you problem. Hey, look, the girl I really want to be with told me to kick rocks. What are you doing tonight?
Is your self-esteem that low that you'll settle? Sure.
Ready? No way. I'm not the hollaback girl. Forget, I got millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Second thought, what time are you picking me up?
I'll be there.
The GM, LeBron James, will have a press conference to announce that J.J. Redick is the head coach. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse sub text the hour 803-446-100. And if we have time, something pretty funny is happening in Major League Baseball with the pathetic White Sox. We'll try to get to that. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, hang until 3 right here on the game. Time to hit the old Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100 here on the Halftime Show. What do you got, bub?
So, in answering the question of how do you fill out time on the Longhorn Network, Jeff weighs in and says they should show underwater basket weaving, psychology shows on how to deal with horns down, getting in touch with your inner delusions, alternate title, We Thought We Were Back.
Jeff, that's great. Excellent. Excellent text by Jeff. Nice work, sir. Very nice. We appreciate that. Hey, we'll find out. Well, they keep saying they're back.
They do, and I mean, hey, you come in and you win double-digit games your first year in the SEC, I'll give it to you.
Oh, you'll be back.
You're back.
Because, like, we give Florida State now the idea, okay, we now have more belief you're back.
Sure.
After 2 straight excellent seasons. If Texas can give you 2 straight excellent seasons, we will go like this. All right, you're back. We'll see. But that's good. I never watched it once. It was on my cable system, never cared.
I think on my parents' TV they have it, but I, for the life of me, don't ever recall watching it.
But that is so Texas, isn't it?
It is.
The Longhorn Network.
And it was, gosh, because that came about probably around the time the Big Ten, because the Big Ten Network was the first one. Like, they came around first, and they famously showed the Michigan-App State game back in 2007.
Oops.
And then a couple years later is when the Longhorn Network came around, and I don't remember the exact way it came to just be Texas, because I know they wanted to go with the Big 12 Network, because of course they did, but somehow it ended up just being Texas.
I know, it just...
Because, like, think about it from this perspective. What if, instead of the SEC Network, we just had the Alabama channel? Or
I was getting ready to say the Buckeye Network. I was thinking the Buckeye Network.
That's just like crazy, right?
Yeah. It makes no sense. But again, Texas got what Texas wanted in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell who was running the ship out there.
How about we have the Big 12 Network, Texas? Now, we had another idea. How about the Longhorn Network? But we're going to put what on there? Longhorns.
Okay, so you win the national championship for the 2005 season. You played for another national championship in the 2009 season. But after that, you fell off.
Yeah.
So for the past decade, up until last year, you've been a mostly irrelevant program, but you're still controlling things behind the scenes in the Big 12.
Well, that shows you money talks, my man.
It certainly does.
Yeah. So thank you for the text. That was fantastic text. 803-404-6100. All right, coming up here at 3 o'clock, special post-game show from the Cockaboose right there by Williams-Brice. Paul Mainieri, the brand new, shiny South Carolina baseball coach, will be having his presser at 4. We'll have an exclusive with Mainieri during the post-game show. And Mainieri's staff, at least 2 of them, Terry Rooney, Monty Lee, will be at the presser. Hopefully we can snag those guys to come on with Jay and Elijah. AD Ray Tanner will be there. Hopefully we can get Coach to pop on as well. But Paul Mainieri, his presser at 4 o'clock today, will be there with a special post-game show from 3 to 6 at the Cockaboose. All right. You've heard of Martin Maldonado, haven't you?
Yep.
Journeyman catcher. Played with the Astros while they were winning world championships. Well, Maldonado is with the woeful, pathetic White Sox. Right now, Martin Maldonado with, I think, 102 at-bats. You know what he's hitting?
I do not know.
0.76.
That's not good.
It's so pitiful in Chicago, if you're a White Sox fan, that this has started. Hashtag vote Maldy.
They're trying to get him in the All-Star game?
Trying to get him in the All-Star game.
That's fantastic. I love that so much.
I mean, it's funny. If they got in, I would be highly entertained. Again, that would be at the expense of my favorite catcher in baseball, Adley Rutschman.
Sure.
But for entertainment purposes, seeing Martin Maldonado hitting under 100 to get voted as a starter in the All-Star game would be hilarious. Would be hilarious.
That's one of those things, if it catches enough steam online, I could see it happening.
Oh, absolutely. What happened in the NHL, and again, the NHL doesn't have the following that Major League Baseball does. But this was, and I had to get it back up on my computer because I remember it, just couldn't remember the year. It was 2016. A dude named John Scott. Scott was a goon, an enforcer, right? And he was in his 30s, and he had like a few career goals, but like 500 and some penalty minutes. All this guy did was come on the ice, drop the gloves, and punch you in the face.
Right.
Well, it was a podcast. It was a hockey podcast being done, guys from Sportsnet and Yahoo, and they started joking about, hey, wouldn't it be cool if John Scott was voted in as an all-star starter? And it caught fire. And all of a sudden, Scott was getting voted in by a ton of hockey fans.
Right.
And the other funny part is, okay, the league was providing weekly updates on the voting, right?
Yep.
Once Scott started catching traction and he started to actually lead in the voting, the NHL stopped with the updates because they didn't want to fan the fire anymore.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So Scott gets voted in. The NHL is not happy. In the meantime, Scott was traded and sent to the minors while all this was going on. So he gets voted in, but he's in the minors when he gets voted in. So after everything goes on, he gets to play. Guess who the MVP of the All-Star game was?
Was it him?
John Scott.
Wow.
So this is happening in the NHL.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Vote Maldy, baby. Hashtag vote Maldy. His 0.76 batting average.
Wow.
All right, special post-game show is coming up with Jay and Elijah from the Cockaboose. Paul Mainieri, the presser at 4 o'clock with the new South Carolina baseball coach, Tyler. Fine job, my friend. Appreciate you like always. Post-game show coming up next here on the game in Columbia at 107.5.